Okay. Well, good evening. I hope everyone is doing well. We are certainly very excited about having everyone for our cohort for the Master Teacher of Personal Finance. I am Julie Ingram, and I work with the Mississippi Council on Economic Education. And with me is Jeanette Bennett. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Jeanette, I think you're on mute.
Okay, so now I'm off of mute and I'm trying to figure out how to get my camera on. So until I do that, you're just going to have to look at this picture. I am Jeanette Bennett with the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis out of the Memphis office. So Mississippi is divided in half. The first part, the top part belongs to the St. Louis Fed, and the bottom part, beginning about Jackson, goes to the Atlanta Fed. So we're privileged to work with all of you from all over the state, and it's going to be a good group. So you are from many, many different places, and I think that Julie's going to ask you to put in the uh, up there with your name where you're from. Is that right, Julie? Are you going to ask
Yeah,
them to do that?
yeah. I'll just jump in real quick. If
Okay.
you would please in the chat put your name and what school you are teaching at. That will help us get to know you a little bit better and to know what part of the state that you are from. And I am going to just jump in. We're waiting for Claire Loop. She is with the Federal Reserve.
I'm here.
Oh, Claire, you're here. Oh, awesome. Claire, do you want to say hi?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Loop. I'm from the New Orleans branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. And like Jeanette was mentioning, when she's talking about the Mississippi being divided up into halves, that's for the Federal Reserve districts that we serve outreach, a number of things from financial services, but also to outreach. So my zone is the southern half of Mississippi from Yazoo City down. And so not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things, but that's where most of my outreach and most of the teachers that I come into contact with come from that area. And we're glad to have you here today.
And I got my camera on.
Okay. Um, well, I'm going to just jump in with some housekeeping issues that I want to address with you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Claire and Jeanette, and they're going to tell you a little bit more about the class and what you can expect. The first housekeeping issue is to please keep your volume muted. If you have a question as we're talking, if you will put it in the chat, I will make sure that we answer that before we get off the Zoom call. The next thing are some important dates that you need to be aware of. And the first is our next meeting. It's a Zoom meeting, and it will be Thursday, June 13th from 5 till 6. And I will put this in a reminder in Canvas for you. But this is just to give you the heads up so you can plan now. I strongly encourage you to be there. You are going to be responsible for knowing the material that is covered. We will be discussing the case study. I really strongly recommend that you attend. We won't keep you long, but you do need to know that material. Our drop date is Friday, June 14th. You must have completed modules 1 and 2 before this date, or you will be dropped from the course. For details, look at the syllabus in Canvas. It's not published yet, but it will be published tonight after our meeting. And then our second touch point meeting will be Thursday, June 27th. And again, it will be from 5 till 6. And again, I strongly encourage you to be present for this meeting, as you will only have 2 weeks left of the course at this point. And this will give you an opportunity to ask questions. And if you're struggling, well, hopefully we catch you before then, but it's a good time to be checking in and making sure that you're where you need to be. The last day to turn in assignments is Wednesday, July 10th. I know the course date says it ends on the 12th, but Claire needs some time to do some grading. And so July 10th is the last day we're going to accept any work, because the course is going to close on the 12th and we can't do anything after that. You must pass your assignments with an 80% or better. Again, I'm going to refer you back to the syllabus. That's in the syllabus. So just keep that in mind as you're doing the work. Make sure that you're diligent in doing the reading and answering the questions. Next, our platform is Canvas. I know that some of you, Canvas is new for you. This is the first time you've had a Canvas course. If you will shoot me a note in the chat, if you want some help, I will get with you and help you navigate through Canvas a little bit. If you don't feel like you're tech savvy and you just want some extra help, I will be glad to help you with that. I do want to give you a heads up on the modules. 2 things. First, module B. There are 2 certificates that you have to get through Next Gen Personal Finance, and these are in module B. It will take up to 2 weeks for your certificates to populate. Do not put this off. This was one of the problems that I saw last year with some of my teachers. They waited to the last minute and then they were struggling getting their certificates uploaded in time. So I moved the module up a little bit higher in the course so that you'll get to it sooner. And I'm hoping that that will take care of any issues that you might have with that module. And then the next thing is please do not jump around. Please go through the course as it is listed. Do one assignment, then click next, do the next assignment, click next, do the next assignment. Don't jump around. It makes it hard to grade and it's really easy to forget something. And if you're missing something, you can't complete the course. So please make sure that you go in order. And lastly, I just want to let you know that I'm really excited for you to be here. I'm excited to be here. I will be grading the Next Gen Personal Finance lessons that you have. So when you come across those, that will be me. And I will also be handling any Canvas issues that you might have. And I share my responsibility of teaching with Claire and Jeanette, and they're going to explain what it is that they do and what part of the course that they're responsible for. Claire, do you want to jump in and do your thing?
Yes, I will do my thing. Okay, so a couple of comments that I'd like to add before I go into a little spiel that I like to use as a level set for this endeavor. First off, this is I'm going to say we're pretty much as a well-oiled machine right now. We've been doing this program online since 2020. But we've done it in person for several years before then. And I'm going to say that this group is benefiting from a lot of tweaks and adjustments, because last year, I do want to say that in all of the years that we've done this, last year I think went the smoothest of all. And it's because everyone progressed through the program as planned. Now, in a course like this, you might be thinking, well, it's something I can work at my own pace. Yes and no. We want you to work at a pace that will get you through the program. You cannot work, you can almost work as fast as you want, as Julie mentioned. It's sort of an in order. Sometimes you're going to hit like against a little a waiting time because we have to grade something before you can move on to the next thing. But the idea is to get you through the program in a timely manner. It does not mean that you can go as slow as you want. That's not going to happen, because then you won't complete the work. This course has a lot of work in it, and as such, there are 3 of us helping to get you through the program. And even though it is at your own pace, or excuse me, online, asynchronous, we try to make sure that we're available to you to answer questions, to help you as much as we can. And as Julie mentioned about turning in work like 2 days before the end of the class, you'll find that in these assignments, it's not a one-time shot. So if you do something and you don't get the grade that you need, or you're you don't, there has to be some adjustment, you have that opportunity. That's why we need to finish a couple of days in advance so that we can be sure everything is done to the acceptable level or better being the ultimate goal, by the end of the class. Last year, I was happy to say that every single person in the program completed successfully and on time. And I'm sure that you can do the same thing. I also like to use this time to do something right now, because some people kind of get a little bit apprehensive, maybe, with this class, because one of the things that we do require in this course is some writing. You will have a couple of short answer questions along the way. You're going to have some feedback from me. And then you're also going to be required to do a case study at the end of the course. And the case study is really an opportunity for you to put all the pieces together, what you've learned, and also your personal experiences, and put them together in a way that helps me understand that you understand the content. And most of us do. You're probably going to come across something that maybe you didn't know earlier, or maybe you haven't applied in your personal life. But I feel very confident that everyone is going to do well in this program. But I want to give you a little baseline hints on some things that I like to have you think about. And I'm going to give you some hints right now. And one thing I want you to be aware of is, I have these on a little handout. Julie's going to have them loaded up in Canvas if they're not already there, so you can always go back to refer to them. But basically what this is kind of my philosophy on what we're trying to accomplish here. And the ultimate goal is for you to feel comfortable in putting, not only just being able to answer a question correctly, but putting your knowledge of personal finance together with content that meets the standards for teaching personal finance, putting it together and being able to transfer that information to your students. So, Julie, am I able to share my screen, or do you need to?
Let me see really quick. Let me see if I can do that. If not, I'll pull it up on my screen.
Just go ahead, and if you wouldn't mind pulling it up.
You want the tips?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me pull that up. Share screen. Okay, let me get this into slideshow mode.
Sure.
There you go.
Thank you very much. All right, so folks, you see, this is not really rocket science. It's just, it's a way to kind of get your mind wrapped around what we're trying to do in this class. One of the key messages about teaching personal finance, or learning personal finance or applying personal finance knowledge, is that personal finance is personal. That's important. decisions that I make about how I use my money, decisions that you make, decisions about what's something important for you to purchase or what credit tool for you to use may not be the right situation for another individual. And chances are it's not going to be exactly the same. That is the underlying premise, that our students need to understand that their decisions are key, and understanding these behaviors and understanding the different techniques for making good decisions about how they use their money or how they plan for the future is key to their individual success, but it's flexible. Our goal is behavioral change, and we're going to try to make thoughtful, informed decisions about almost everything. We want to be able to compare options. We want to understand the rules so that when we make decisions about a purchase or entering into a credit arrangement, or just whether or not I should pay off a piece of debt or put some money into my savings, that I've done that with thinking about how is it going to affect the overall picture. Those thoughtful steps will help move us toward our overall financial goal. And that financial goal, in my mind, the baseline is stability. So decisions that you make about spending or not spending, that's I like that term as opposed to sometimes saving, because sometimes people don't like saving. They think it's something that means they can't do something fun. And that's not necessarily true. It's that you either spend or you don't spend, or you spend later. That's ultimately what's happening. But whatever those decisions are, there are consequences to the rest of your ability to spend. Sometimes the consequences are good, sometimes they're bad. For a quick example, if I get myself into a credit arrangement that has a very high interest rate, while I may be able to purchase something right now, that could be good, but ultimately the bad consequences of that is I'm going to be paying a lot more for that item in those higher interest fees. So just think about it. The decisions we make have consequences, both good and bad, and it affects all of our decisions. I say that because as we start moving toward that case study at the end, we want to think about the whole picture. If I'm asking, for example, we're going to set up a budget, and some of that budget might have some saving features and some spending features, we have to consider all of our expenses when we're determining how much to save. All parts together have to work. We can't decide to save 90% of our salary if that doesn't allow us to cover our expenses. Those pieces need to work together. Next slide. A budget is going to be the key baseline for everything that we do. And that's what we're going to relate to our students as well. And basically, the only thing a budget is a way to track our spending decisions so we know where our money is going. What are we doing with it? So if I get to the end of the month and I can't make all my payments, I can go back and see, well, what did I spend? What are my expenses? Where might I make some changes? When we're considering that budget, and these are just my top tips and takeaways this is the kind of information of the baseline personal finance. Pay yourself first. That means put something away for yourself for later before anything else. It's part of that budget. Treat it like an expense. Pay yourself first. We need to save for now. It might be an emergency, something pops up. Maybe we want to go on a vacation, but we also want to save for our future. And we don't wait until we have enough money to save. We start immediately. Small amounts add up. It is better to develop a habit over time with putting something small away and eventually increasing it than saying, oh, I don't make enough right now to save. That's silliness. You could put 10 cents a week away. That's something. And you build until you get to a point that you're comfortable with.
Sorry.
Emergency fund is a key part of that. That's one of the topics that we'll be talking
about. That's why
about.
you don't get no gum. Look at that gum on my seat.
Julie, can you force?
Yeah, give me just a second. Give me just a minute.
Well, it seems to
I
be,
think we're okay. Yeah, let's just stay muted if we can, please.
all right. Was I finished the last one?
Let me go
At that
back.
point, I didn't know if I was finished.
I think you were.
Okay. All right.
Let me,
Now, okay, there we go. All right. The other mentioned big thing, budgeting, saving, spending, that's one of the big topics. Credit is a big topic in personal finance. And I want you to keep these ideas in mind, that credit comes in two forms, good and bad. You earn them both. If your behaviors with money are in making decisions that aren't good for you, you will develop bad credit. If you're exhibiting behaviors that do result in positive experiences with credit, your credit is good. So whatever happens, it's based on your actions. Debt is not a bad thing. Too much debt is a bad thing. Too much of the wrong kind of debt is a bad thing. What I mean by that is all of us at some point in your life, probably many points in your life, you're going to have to borrow money or make a purchase with some type of credit arrangement. That's just how things go. But there's different kinds of credit arrangements, and having too much debt based on what you earn, or too much of the wrong kind of debt, extremely high interest items, or too much debt on things that don't build wealth, meaning you're spending using your credit cards, and I'm saying you, but I mean in a general term, you. And this information is what we're imparting to our students. Using a credit card, for example, to be buying going out to eat and taking your friends out to dinner, or paying for all these kinds of things that have no lasting value. They disappear. That is an example. Now, I'm not saying you can't sometimes use it to pay for these things, but sometimes our students, one of the big things that students find themselves in a problem is because of these kinds of spending ideas on things that aren't lasting. When we're talking about these behaviors with our students and the idea of credit being something that we all want to experience, we need it because we have to have a credit score. And you don't develop a credit score by not engaging with some type of credit tool, a credit card, maybe a car loan, buying your first house, paying off your student loans. These kinds of things are necessary to develop a credit score. And why is that important? Is because we all want to have access to credit, not only for the things that we need for ourselves, but also for things to be, something happens and all of a sudden my car bursts into flames outside. I want to know that I have a good enough credit rating that if I need to go and make an additional purchase or borrow some money to maybe buy another car, or maybe have to use a credit card and be able to pay for that repair, that I know that I have access to credit. That's the reason we're trying to build positive credit scores, because access to credit is one of these stability features. We might not always have the ready money that we need, but we need to know that we have other resources to get what we need. One of the main messages is we balance the kinds of debt we have. Credit scores are based on multiple different kinds of credit. So the same thing happens with us. We will need to have at some point in our life an example of a credit card, an example of an installment loan, possibly an installment loan, like you buy something you pay every month, like a car note. Different kinds of credit tools carry different weight in that grading scale, and that grading scale being your credit score. So we want to make sure we have a little bit of everything, but within good balance with how much we earn. One thing that we haven't had to do in about the last maybe, well, we've had to do it probably in the last 4 years, pandemic wise, 3 to 4 years. But prior to that, we had about a 10-year stretch of not really having issues with high interest rates. We just weren't there. They are here now. We see rising prices on different things. We see interest rates to buy a car, to buy a house, whatever. It's going up. So it's important for us to understand and to make sure our students keep an eye on those interest rates, because the decision that we make to purchase something can be influenced by that rate. If it's something that I can wait for and wait for a better rate, that might be my better choice. If it's something I need to know or need to buy right now, just be aware that you may be paying more for it, but that's just the way of the world. So interest rates change, and we should understand how they work, so that when we're looking at financial tools, we can make best decisions for ourselves from a timing perspective, and also from the standpoint of understanding that I know if I have to borrow money today and the interest rate, let's just say, is 8%, then I understand that if later on down the road the interest rates drop, I might want to look into a way to get what I owe down to a lower level. There are options for that. It's keeping an eye on interest rates. Next slide. Finally, I think one of the, here's 4 key messages. And actually, this first bullet probably should be tattooed on everyone's forehead. Cost, worth, and value are not the same things. Cost is what we pay for something. Worth could be a number of things. It could be, what could you sell? Let's think about an asset. Let's say the treadmill that's behind me here. What I paid for that treadmill and what it's worth are 2 different things. What it's worth is what I could get for it if I tried to sell it. Monetarily, what it's worth. If I can't get anything for it, if nobody wants it and I can't sell it, then monetarily it's worth nothing. It might be personally worth something to me, because that means I can get on my treadmill when it's raining. Value is a similar thing to worth, but again, it's not the same. Value is the meaning in some cases that we apply to something, or it is the value you get from it. What is the benefit you get from a particular item? But what an item costs, whether or not it's valuable to have, well, value to you personally, it means something to you, and what it's worth, what is it available to sell, are 3 different situations. But sometimes our students will get these ideas muddled and thinking, if I buy this multi-$100 pair of shoes, that has that it's worth multiple hundreds. No, it's not. It's cost, worth, and value, different items. One of the other key message that we're looking at as we get to the idea of bringing our students into a world of understanding how all of the decisions they make about spending fit together, and when we get to our case study, is the idea of net worth. Net worth is just a simple math of the amount of assets that you have, and that asset might be something you own, something, and think about it in this terms, something that you could sell. So it's not the fact that I own this book, it's that I own, or you might own a car, or you might own a house or a boat, something that you could convert or sell. It has made some kind of lasting monetary worth. It's just a difference of what you have minus what you owe. So if a student buys, let's just, for example, a $20,000 automobile, but they borrow money so that they are paying over the long time $30,000 for this car. Okay, they're in a negative net worth position because they owe or potentially owe more on this car than it's worth. So it's just what you own minus what you owe on that item. Protection is also key. Protection of your stuff, my house, my car, you know, those items. We protect our things with insurance. It's necessary in a lot of cases. We protect our health with insurance, as well as medical care. We protect our income with insurance. And when I say insurance there, I mean, you know, if you're employed by a job, or your employer in many cases will have some type of, maybe let's say a disability policy or some sort, so that if you get hurt, or if you have like workman's compensation, if you get hurt on the job, that a portion, that's the key, a portion of your income may be covered. So it's important that we look for ways to protect ourselves, so that if something were happen to me, that I could still have some type of income. And then we also want to protect our wealth, and we protect our wealth through insurance. And understand that meaning because there might be an asset like your home, you protect it with insurance. So if something comes, you know, catches on fire, a hurricane blows it down, flood comes up and destroys your stuff, that's part of your wealth. Insurance is an item that we need to protect that. But we also want to protect ourselves because of fraud awareness. We want to be aware of things that we do so that we're not putting our personal information out for the public to steal, or someone else to steal, or just being careless and maybe lose track of something. And the next thing you know, we've had some type of breach of our personal information, or, you know, lost our debit card and someone's wiping out our account. These are kinds of things that we want to be aware of, as well as credit cautions, being aware of the kinds of debt tools we use so that we don't risk our wealth through bad decisions. So if you notice on that last bullet, I mentioned insurance multiple times. Insurance is a key topic. It'll be a key topic in this session, as well as it's a key topic in personal financial education, because not only do we want to be able to save and spend, but we want to be able to protect the things that we have. And some of these items are insurable through a number of different means that we'll learn about in this course. And then finally, I like to end with the idea that someday is not a plan. And I say someday, meaning, oh, I'm going to start saving someday, or maybe I'll start thinking about the future someday, or maybe I'll worry about checking my credit report someday. Someday is not a plan. We want to start today. We want to keep an eye on our finances. We want to learn how to make good decisions. We want to understand the consequences of our decisions. And if a decision that we made goes bad, be aware of it and fix it. This was one thing I think we did skip, that I might have skipped, Julie, on one of the other slides. Don't go back, just listen. The under the budget points, there was a mention that since we're tracking what decisions we make and we're tracking our spending, if we come to a point where we realize that the budget we set is not working for us, change it. Budgets are not set in stone. It's a plan, and that the plan has to adapt. So someday is not a plan. We want to start today. We start small. We keep moving forward toward our goals. And in order to keep moving forward, we need to adapt. See what's happening, continue what's working, adjust what's not, keep moving forward, don't stop. That's kind of my overall philosophy for, I guess, personal finance, financial education. There are other components and other topics that we'll learn about, banking and so forth, but these are kind of like the overall value. The last thing that I want to talk about, there's one more sheet, Julie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Yeah, that's okay. The last thing that I want to
There we
mention,
go.
and because Julie mentioned that, I'll tell you about what we deal with, and she's going to send you out a message so that you know that, like with the three of us, we each take over or take care of part of this class. My responsibilities in this class, besides interacting with you, answering your questions, doing these sessions so that we can share information and answer your questions, my grading responsibility basically is our prep questions. We have a case study prep questions. So throughout the course, you'll come across these short answer questions that are called the case study prep. And those questions help you form a foundation. It helps you practice answers so that you can then move into putting all the pieces together in your case study. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is be able to bring this information, push it all together, make it make sense, and bring it into the classroom. And I say that because as you're answering some of the short answers, questions, or when you're working on your case study that we'll talk about later, that you don't have to know this today, but just keep this in the back of your head. My ultimate goal is to make sure that I understand that you understand what you need to share with your students. And we do that through the case study prep questions and through the case studies, because here is your opportunity to explain it to me like you're going to explain it to your students. And this is a tactic that I like when I'm working on something, and it might work for you and I'm passing it on. If you choose not to do it, that's your business, but this is what I'm talking about. If I were asking a question and I wanted you to, I don't know, explain why you made it, I'm just making this up right now. Let's say I give you two options and I'm asking you to choose between these two vehicles or two credit opportunities. And I'm going to ask you, I may ask you, well, why? Why did you choose that? Think about your answer. Don't just give me a quick no phrase, just a phrases or short words without any context. When you're writing up an answer for a short response or in the case study, think about how you would say it. I always say it out loud. Does it make any sense when you say it out loud? Because when you talk to your students, you're going to say it out loud. You want to practice on your family? Tell them. Ask them to ask you a question and you answer it. Do they understand what you're saying? You want to practice? Talk to your dog, talk to your cat, talk to the wall. Say it out loud. You need to be able to hear it. Then I want you to think about what's another way to explain that. Because what if you explained it once, but they didn't get it? So you need to take a different approach. Think about another way to explain the same item. And then lastly, write down which one you think is best. Write it down. Tell me what you're going to tell them. As we work through these assignments, keep this in mind. It's not enough to just pick if it's a multiple choice, or find because you're going to look something up, or just know the correct answer. What we need to be able to do is convey this content to our students. So think in those terms. You're going to be working through assignments that your students will also be working through. You want to be able to explain to them how to do these particular assignments, how to interpret the content, and how to put all the pieces together to help them make better decisions ultimately. So that's a lot for today. This whole stuff is going to be available to you. Always go back and read it if you want. But the idea is, think about the ultimate goal. We're taking this class so that you can then know this content and pass it on to your students. That's the ultimate goal. Think of them as the end result. And that's it.
Great. Jeanette, do you want to explain what you're going to be doing? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Julie. And yes, it's my turn. And I should have probably done a PowerPoint slide like Claire did to keep my thoughts organized. But I think sometimes just talking without a PowerPoint works better for me. First of all, I want to ask, this is kind of personal and off the topic. Candace McAlpin, you're on mute. But unmute and tell me, do you know someone named Chris McAlpin and where are you from?
I'm from McGee, Mississippi, and I do.
How do you know Chris?
He's part of the family help inside.
Okay, when I saw your name, I thought my son played college football with Chris, and I knew he was from in Mississippi, and I thought, I gotta ask. So tell Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
Jason's mom said hi. Okay, so as we start, let's think about, why are you doing this? What is your incentive for taking this class? And I'm going to ask somebody to unmute and tell me what your incentive is. You got to unmute if you want to answer me.
I mean, for me, I teach college and career readiness, and I already teach personal finance, and I've taken a lot of MTPF's personal finance. But anything else I can learn for myself and for my students is why I wanted to take it.
That's good. But what is your incentive, like CEU credit or anything like that?
The betterment of my students, of my class, to make
But
sure that it helps my kids. That's my incentive for taking it. It's so that I teach better in my class.
that's a very good incentive. Do you have any CEU credit that you're going to get from this class?
Oh yes, definitely. But I'm going to retire before I need that. So
Okay. How many CEUs do you get for taking this class?
I think it's 7.5.
Is that right, Julie? Is it 7.5?
I believe, yes.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It
So
is a lot.
we expect this to be a lot of work. I think it's kind of calculated on an average of 75 hours. That's how that CEU is determined. Well, 75 hours is a lot, but you have quite a bit of time to work on this. And so if you pace yourself, it's going to be okay. But one thing about using Canvas that's good for an instructor anyway, it logs the amount of time you have spent online. So like sometimes if you are taking some assignment that should take maybe 30 minutes to an hour and it logs you in as 7 minutes, the instructor has to wonder, did you really think? Or are you just putting answers down? Believe me, just putting answers down is not going to get you through the course successfully. It is a thinking skill that's important. There's the CENTS cents, like dollars and cents. We'll be talking a lot about dollars and cents. But the main thing is the SENSE, sense, common sense. So much of personal finance, even though we can say it's personal, it's also common sense. If you don't have the money, you don't have it. You don't spend it. You got to think, can I pay for this? And credit, and there's a lot of things that you will learn, like tips on, like Claire mentioned the credit score. Did you And she also said that you had to work with credit to get your credit score. Did you know? You may already know this, but credit cards are the main source of building your credit score. If you look at how much your car payment counts, very little compared to credit cards. Things like that are important, but it's common sense that makes personal finance successful. Now, so your incentive is to teach better, to get more content. And Dana says she wants lessons for her students. And then the added benefit is you get the CEU credits. But did you know, first of all, I told you that I was with Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis out of Memphis, but I have a lot of years in as a educator also. Before I started working at the Fed, I had been a teacher. I had been a principal in a school for several years. So I know that you're facing situations in the classroom that people in ivory towers can't tell you how to fix. Your classroom is different to what somebody wants to tell you what to do. So your kids respond differently to different things. But they all respond to money, recognition, and praise. So with a combination of those things can get you far with your student achievement. Now, one thing I did learn quickly at the Federal Reserve that the economists have a phrase that they toss around a lot. And the phrase applies to you and me. The answer is, it all depends. It may not be the best or the worst. It all depends. So how do you get to the bottom line? Common sense is what does it. Now, you will get a syllabus that's divided into modules. And Julie is going to be she's going to be publishing that syllabus so you'll have access to it right after the meeting today. And you can see one module is devoted to insurance. Like Claire was saying, insurance is very important. One module will be on credit. And of course, we all know that credit is very important. And it's intermittently, there will be a quiz in there that says key concepts for modules 4, 5, and 6, or key concepts for modules 7 and 8. And you can go back. The answers are all there for you, but you have to know this. In the very intro to this syllabus, there's going to be something that's called the study guide. At one time, like Claire said, we've been doing this for a long time, and for a while we used the study guide at the end of the course. But then I think it was last year we decided to break it into sections. And then you look back in the study guide to find the answers. Now that's in the very intro to your syllabus. It will say study guide. You don't even have to worry about it, but you will when it says key concepts for module 4, 5, and 6, or whatever it says. You just look back up there and the answers will be there. Now, the part that I grade, first of all, you send in an introduction to yourself. One time or 2 times or maybe 3 times, I don't know, we used to go around in this meeting and we'd say, okay, Dee, it's your turn. Tell us about yourself. And by the time we did that with 40 people, I mean, it was lengthy. So we decided that was taking up too much time. So then, what we want you to do now is write it and submit it through Canvas. And you can tell who you are, why you're doing this, how long you've been teaching, what your school, whatever, something about your family, whatever you want to share to introduce yourself. And there's no right or wrong answer, of course, there, but it's you sharing with us who you are. Another thing that I will be checking is there are some lessons. I don't know why it says this, but it says for teachers only. Of course, it's for teachers only because you're the only ones taking the course. So I don't know why they're named that way, but there are several like that. All of those lessons come from one curriculum guide, Making Personal Finance Decisions, and they are print lessons that you can have access to. I will be scoring those. I will also be scoring the anything with Econ Lowdown. Now you may not be able to tell what's an Econ Lowdown assignment, but it's almost everything on there except for what Claire went over and for the next 10 days. Now, Econ Lowdown assignments may be a reading Q&A. There's several of them. Like you read an article, and then at the end of reading the article, you answer questions. One thing I found that maybe should be emphasized a bit more, you can go back in that article to find the answers. So if you're with an article and then all at once you're supposed to answer questions, go back in the article and find it. Don't just guess. Okay, Claire, you put something in chat. What did it say? It said that it's called for teachers only because
Those are the items that aren't in the student-facing version. There are some activities that the teachers will complete that are not in the student-facing version.
okay, thank you. But the teacher, you can have access to it to use with your students separately. Okay, so where was I? Go back. If you're on a reading Q&A, go back in the article, find the answer. That's a whole lot easier than making less than 80% and having to do it over again. The easiest way to do it is slow, careful, and just do it one time. You know, it's kind of like when you get in a hurry to do something and everything goes wrong. It's more trouble than if you just slowed down and did it right the first time. Now there's different, the reading Q&A is one type of assignment. I love the reading Q&A because they're about something that's pertinent, relevant, something that's new. You know, when you look at personal finance, it's been around for a long time, but just think about, wow, it's changed so much. Do you remember this? Is it anybody? You don't have to tell your age, but does anybody remember the time when when you didn't use a debit card or credit card? I do. So I'm having to admit that I was in college my first stint in college was a long time ago. So there were no problems with running up a credit card debt. You didn't have a credit card. And then just think about there was a payphone in the dorm. And this is probably going back before your time, but there was a pay telephone on the floor of the dorm. And that's what I used. Well, you know what? We've got third graders that can't go to school without their cell phones today. And I was in college and could only use a payphone occasionally at the end of, boy, things have changed. I just now read, and I don't know much about it, but there is something today that's called a buy now, pay later. It's not a loan and it's not a credit card, but it's some kind of a deal. I don't know if you've heard of it or know about it, but that is in the news now because it's not figured in as part of your credit score. And they're trying to figure out, hey, that's not right. And think about the debit card and the ATMs. We didn't have ATMs not that many years ago. You know, think about, the credit card actually started with the payphone. You remember? No, you don't remember, but you used to have quarters that you'd have to, Dee remembers because she's shaking her head. You had to have a quarter to put in that payphone, and the operator would come on the line and say, deposit 25 cents, please. And if you didn't do that, Jeff, am I seeing you're shaking your head? You remember that too. If you didn't have 25 cents, then you got cut off. Well, somebody got real smart and said, hey, let's issue a card for using on the phone. And there were phone cards that were, money was put on those phone cards. That's how the credit cards got started, from the phone cards. But the evolution of personal finance is not over. It continues. Every day, somebody's coming up with, oh, let's do this. Oh, let's do that. And so the main thing is common sense. Analyze it, talk about it to yourself like, well, what are they doing here? And is this a good deal? And a friend that we all know, um, all of you probably know Selena, she's told before this story of how she bought this vacuum cleaner. Some salesman came to the house and convinced her it was just the most wonderful thing ever. It was one of those vacuum cleaners that didn't have a bag and it had water in the bottom, and it was so good, and it only cost X number of dollars. Well, she got it and figured out later that paying it out on payments, that vacuum cleaner was going to cost her, like, I don't remember what it was, but it was a fortune because she didn't think about, the total cost there. So many times when we're looking at personal finance, I think it's the best class to teach because it's not stagnant. It is dynamic. And what you use today, you're going to have to change a little bit tomorrow because it's going to change. And when you get your kids thinking with some common sense about personal finance, they're going to come to class with these. You know what I saw on TV last night? I saw them advertising blah, blah, blah. And they were, they're going to be tuned into what you teach because it's all around, it's everywhere. Personal finance is everywhere, and personal finance changes daily. Now, another thing that's in your assignments are modules. These modules may be things like, there's one called The Art of Decision Making. And it's like just a little, do page 1, flip to page 2, flip to page 3, answer some questions. Okay, remember you have to have 80%. Now, some things, it's not too hard for me to reset it and you do it again. But if you have 2 modules that you don't have 80%, it gets kind of complicated. I have to set it up in a different format, in a different platform for you to access it again. Please just try real hard to make sure the modules that I don't have to set you up in a different way to complete it. There are some videos. Now, the videos we rely heavily on for insurance, and you're going to enjoy them. They're short video clips, and at the end of the videos, you just got a few questions based on what was in the video. But whether it's a video, a module, a reading Q&A, or an open response, one thing keep in mind, are you competitive? Do you want to do a good job? Do you want to beat your students? These lessons are written for students in high school. So remember, everything you do, like if you do a reading Q&A on smartphones, remember that is written for high school students. And when you get through with this course, you'll be able to use that lesson with your students. So actually, what you're doing with all of the, for teachers only, and for all the Econ Lowdown reading Q&As and the modules, what you're doing is practicing, getting familiar with an assignment that you'll be able to give to your students. Now that's exciting. Not only are you learning the content, but you're also learning about a resource that you can assign to your students. And you'll know all about it. When they come to you and say, Derek, I mean, they don't call you Derek, they say, Mr. Harvey, I don't understand this. You will understand it because you've already done it. So that's another good thing about this course. It's not just learn the content and forget it. It's become familiar with the content, and then you're ready to use it in your classroom. Now, my notes say that I think I've covered everything that I thought was most important. And I open it for any questions.
I will just draw your attention to a note that Claire put into the chat, and that is, please remember that all assignments must be completed with at least an 80% to pass, and that is not average, that is each assignment.
Yeah, thank you for saying that's not average. We have had that come up before, where if you average all your scores together, you might have an 80, but it's individual assignments. Like Ms. Shanks, if you've got a 75 on an individual assignment, you're going to have to do it again. I don't care if all the rest of them are 100%. That's a very good point to bring up, Claire.
I also just want to remind you, if there's anybody who feels like they need help with Canvas, just drop it in the chat for me and I'll get with you after the meeting. Claire, did you have anything else?
I don't think. Wait, hang on. I don't think I have anything else. If you've gone through when they're going to have access to the course, that they contact us through Canvas. Did we mention that? Okay.
Yes.
Did we mention about the response expectations? Just keep in mind that, like I said, there's 3 of us here, and we're going to put into Canvas which of us handle which parts. But please keep in mind, if you write to us, this is why it's important for you to pace yourself and get a good running start. We are not sitting here waiting for you to respond, to send us a message. As work is done, we will deal with it as we can, but there is no expectation there should be no expectation on your part, because there's absolutely not going to happen on our part, that, you know, you're going to get an instantaneous response. You might, if I'm sitting here and you send me an email, I might see it and be able to answer it right away. Also, if you're writing to us in the middle of the night, or on weekends, we will answer you as soon as is practical for us to do so. But keep in mind, if you only work at stuff, you know, like on a Friday night, you may not hear from us until Monday. I'm not saying you can't, just keep your expectations, you know, in line with how you would want someone to be able to contact you. As we continue to go through the course, and when we get closer into, you know, preparing our case study and stuff, we'll have some additional contact information from me that you'll be able to, you know, reach me a little bit quicker. But right now, I'll keep all of our communications through Canvas so that we have a record of them and we can all respond. And one last thing about all responding: if you happen to send me an email and it's really about something that Jeanette or Julie will handle, then I'm going to just forward it to them to respond to. And so just be aware that, you know, we want to make sure that you're getting the correct answer first time out of the bat. And so I might tell you, hey, I'm sending this to Julie, or I'm sending this to Jeanette. Just keep that in mind. And, you know, I think if you have an individual question, you know, Julie, I don't know if you have anything else from a practical standpoint, how do we start this process? How do we get into Canvas? Make sure that we have the links and so forth. I'm not sure if you have gone through that.
Well, I will publish the course. Give me like 15 minutes after we finish our meeting tonight, and I'll have it published. And you can go into Canvas, just go into mde.instructure. And if you haven't done that already, please accept your Canvas course. But it will populate for you as soon as I publish it. I
And
believe
I would like to end by saying it's an exciting time to be teaching personal finance. First of all, you know, there's a lot of economic conditions that are different and maybe more important than ever before about this making informed decisions and about stretching your dollars to get whatever you can out of it. So it's a very exciting time for you to be teaching personal finance and for us to be able to work through the course with you. So I'm very happy to have all of you, and it's going to be a pleasure. And that's all I have.
I am going to put in the chat my email address, just on the off chance you cannot get into Canvas for some reason. And this way you can, oh, I put a space in there. It should be Julie Ingram all together. Let me try that again. Oh, it's still going to do it. Okay. But if you will email me if you have any problems, and I will get it taken care of, either tonight or first thing tomorrow. But we are so glad that you're all with us. And if y'all don't have any questions, we're going to stop early tonight, and I'm sure we're not going to shed any tears over that. Yeah, question. Dana. Hold on, you're still on.
Dana, you're on mute. Dana, you're on mute.
I think she's working on it.
Sorry. So now the Canvas invite, should I have already gotten that?
Yes.
I'm signed into my Canvas to the right MDE instructor, but
Oh, okay.
I don't see my invite to the class. Should that already be there?
Can you
I mean,
give
I
me a second and I'll look?
Okay, I know it's not published, but I don't even see an invite, so that's why I was asking.
Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me just double check and make sure that I'm seeing,
Yeah,
well,
I
I've
would
got you
be,
all here.
yeah, that goes for me also. I'm signed into Canvas, but I haven't seen an invite to
Okay.
anything.
It may just happen. Yeah, I've got 36 people in my class. I'll bet you'll see it as soon as I publish it.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't supposed to already be seeing something.
No, I think it's gonna pop up for you as if you don't see it in 30 minutes, email me.
Okay,
Um,
you.
and we'll fix it. We'll get you in there.
Okay,
Thank you that's a good question. I appreciate that.
So y'all have a good evening and
Yes,
get started. And remember, this is exciting.
yes, as quickly as you want to run through it, that's great. Just don't leave it to the last minute because it can pile up on you. So, thank you so much. We sure appreciate your time and we're excited to work with you.
Absolutely. After the class opens, like I said, we'll answer you as quickly as possible, and we're going to be keeping in touch with you to make sure that you're moving through and that your questions are answered through this program.
Okay. That's it. We'll see y'all in Canvas.
That's right.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
What?
bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Claire, if you and Jeanette will just hang on for just a second.
You want to stop the recording?
Yep, let me do that. Well, it's not letting me. Hold on. Well, it's not, oh, there we go.